then he fled, he went upstairs, he was on a purple bike. He seemed to go west, I believe, on 88, and he's not been seen since. Obviously, there's an all-points bulletin. Again, this is not a perception of a crime in the subway. This is not an anomaly, as I would constantly hear when I bring these cases to the attention of the general public during this campaign, in which I am the only mayoral candidate who's focused on transportation issues, especially in the subway, the buses and the express buses. My other two adversaries almost never, ever discuss mass transit, and they're never in mass transit, almost never. So this needs to be addressed by the present administration.
Sorry, Nay, I think I got a cut of the light.
Later today, I will be going to the wake in Bensonhurst of Nicola Thompson. It's only 8 days to go. Again, 3 in the afternoon at the J Street Borough Metro Tech station. That while taking a subway, he was confronted by a deranged individual who it turns out had been arrested 33 prior times with 5 open cases and was turned loose because of no cash bail as far distant as 2019, when my one adversary, Andrew Cuomo, signed that into law. He was the architect of no cash bail. My other adversary, Zohran Mamdani, is the apprentice of no cash bail. So in these 2 cases, they should have weighed in on it. They haven't. They almost never talk about crimes in the subway or crimes in the street. In addition, there have been other crimes. We know on the F train, 2 men had robbed 2 other men, pushed one into the tracks on Saturday night, and they've yet to be detained. And there have been a series of other major crimes in the subway system. It's only going to get worse as the weather gets more inclement. And when you go to each of the transit police precincts, the closest one here, the #1 transit police precinct at Columbus Circle, they tell me time and time again, Curtis, we just don't have enough men and women. We don't have enough police officers. We can only be spread but so thin. My remedy? We need to make sure that we get police officers out there on the moving subway cars. Of the platforms and become very proactive. But again, you only have 32,500 police officers at hand to patrol not just the streets, the housing, and the transit police. You're really handicapped. And that's why the priority of my mayoralty will be to hire 7,000 trained professional police officers. It's going to cost $1 billion. To vet them out, to train them, and to get them into the streets and the subways and the public housing facilities. So I don't want to hear any longer from Eric Adams that it is a perception. I don't want to hear from Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner, that it's an anomaly. I know they've been responding by saying, oh no, look at the stats, you've never been safer. I've yet to come across any New Yorker, whether they're on the subways, the buses, whether they're in the neighborhoods, the 350 neighborhoods that I visited on a regular basis. Not one of them has said that they feel safer, that it is safer, and that they feel comforted in going about taking a subway, whether by day or by night. Obviously, the other big update is that they came off of that stage of Channel 4 NBC last night as the victor in that 3-person debate. It is clear to me that what we have from Zohran Mamdani, it's almost like Daft Punks, if you remember that pop group from the 1990s on MTV. He's robotic. Everything is affordable, affordable, affordable. You ask him about parades, affordable. You ask him about global warming, climate change, affordable. He refuses to address anything else. One time he did lapse though in this subway system with all the homeless. And he directed us all to a program in Eugene, Oregon. And I had to turn to him in wonderment and amazement and say, what a fantasy that is. The reality is, you've never been to Eugene, Oregon. I have. This is New York City. You're comparing what goes on in Eugene, Oregon to what you would do in New York City. He is hopelessly disconnected from the problems of the subway. Andrew Cuomo, he's run out of gas. I haven't heard anything new from Andrew Cuomo since he lost those two primary debates and eventually lost the primary to the ultimate winner, Zohran Mamdani. If we are to recruit police, and I brought this to everybody's attention last night on the debate, the number one impediment to getting young men and young women to join the police department, because many of them come from families where there have been police officers, whether it's their parents or grandparents, aunts and uncles, is the fact that the police do not have insurance. They don't. People don't realize this. All the other civil servants, 320,000 in the city system, they're all insured. It's called qualified immunity. The police were stripped of that in 2021 by our city council. And the mayor did nothing to remedy that. The man who claimed, oh, I was a police officer for 22 years. Yeah, you had qualified immunity. We know that Andrew Cuomo on that stage last night, protected by qualified immunity, as we were reminded again and again, how Tom DiNapoli, our Democratic state controller, has had to pay out $60 million of our tax dollars to satisfy sexual harassment claims against Governor Cuomo. 13 that I brought to everybody's attention. One, a female state trooper that he said was all made up. It was a political hit job on him. He's protected. Other civil servants are protected, but police officers are not protected. That's why we're not able to get enough recruits to meet the demand that we have. And on day one, I'm going to make sure that that's restored. That's the least we can do to these brave men and women who every time they go out are risking their lives to protect us, whether in the subways, the streets, or the public housing project. Any question?
Last night, the time on Andrew Cuomo in Ukraine. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it was apparent to everybody, and the look on Andrew Cuomo's face, he was utterly defeated last night. Ran out of gas. He's got no more gas in his tank. He spent millions of dollars in PAC money, both in the primary and in the regular campaign, and money he's raised from billionaires to try to put a dent in Zohran Mamdani. He hasn't even put a dent in. He can't keep pace with Zohran Mamdani. It's over for him. It's from a different age. It's time to go retire with his billionaire benefactors, his manatees in the Hamptons. You see, with Andrew Cuomo, he lost as the Democratic chosen institutional candidate in the primary. He lost. He was rejected by the Democrats. The problem with Andrew Cuomo that he doesn't understand what no means in many different ways. I've got the energy, I've got the resolve, I've got the new ideas. I'm the only one who's in the streets and the subways who reflects what average everyday working people are saying. Zohran Mamdani is now the cone man. Every answer is affordability, affordability. And we have another debate coming up next Wednesday, and I'm getting him out of his comfort zone, his comfort cocoon, because when he's forced to talk about anything other than affordability, he is hopelessly naive. He talks from the land of fantasy, not reality. And I'm going to pin him down because he's really not knowledgeable about these critical issues that the next mayor is going to have to deal with from day one. He's not ready to deal with them. I am. And that's why that second debate next Wednesday will be very important, because I'm not going to let him be a robot any longer, just saying affordability, affordability, affordability to every question.
Mr. Sliwa, is there any circumstance in which you are spending your fees?
No, 1,000 times no. If we go through the litany and the history of this, on June 24th, Andrew Cuomo threw in the towel to Zohran Mamdani in the Democratic primary. He knew no mas, it was over. 70% of the Democrats wouldn't even rank choice vote. Immediately there was a chorus. All the billionaires that were leaving the failed Andrew Cuomo primary attempt as they ran over to their newfound savior for New York City, Eric Adams, who put us in this mess to begin with because of him not functioning as a mayor. That's how Zohran Mamdani came about a year ago. Nobody even knew who Zohran Mamdani was, not even his neighbors. His failure led to Zohran Mamdani. So Andrew Cuomo is now on the cusp of bowing out June 24th. And remember, every day, every public, you gotta drop out, Andrew, you gotta drop out. He stayed the course, that was his choice. And the savior turned out not to be a savior because on his very first press conferences, he brought back all the old crooked gang. Ingrid Lewis, Martin, the potato chip gal herself, Winnie Greco, everybody that put this city in the abyss he brought back. And he couldn't get out of even breaking 10 percentage point in the polls. So then all of a sudden, you know, is the price right yet? Eric was ready. He was auditioning. The price right, the price. Finally, he got his price 3 weeks ago, and he was one and done. And then the same billionaires started all over again. Curtis, you got to drop out. Curtis, you got to drop out. Well, who am I dropping out for? Andrew Cuomo? Andrew Cuomo failed against Zohran Mamdani. Why would I drop out for a guy who's already tossed in the towel? And so, no, 1,000 times no. We have less than 3 weeks to go. If you look at my campaign, I'm the only one with headquarters. I have 11 headquarters all throughout the 5 boroughs. I have exuberant volunteers everywhere who are excited about my campaign and the issues that I brought to the forefront. I've raised more money in matching funds than Andrew Cuomo. I have 15,000 donors. He only has 8,000 donors. So why would I somehow not want to follow through on the commitment that I've made to my followers who are prepared to vote for me either as the Republican candidate, the only other major party candidate, and on the line that my wife created first ever in electoral history, the independent line, protect animals, that calls for no-kill shelters and putting animal abusers in jail. Again, I will say this, elections are about people voting. Billionaires have thought that they could pick the next mayor. They have failed miserably. They should stay on Wall Street. They know nothing about politics of the street. And the professional political class has failed in this election cycle. They need to sit on the sideline. You know who we need to trust with this election? The people. What a novel idea. The people who work, who pay their taxes, who raise their children here, who haven't fled but decided to improve, not move, whether they're voting for me or not, they will determine who the next mayor is, and I will live with the choice that they make. If I should happen to lose, I'm not going to flee like Andrew Cuomo told his billionaire friends in the Hamptons when he was being wine-dined in parking lot. Oh, I'm coming with you to Florida. I stay, I fight for what I know is right. I continue the battle to improve and not move.
Curtis, there were a few moments last night where it appears you might have been a little confused about the question or whether or not it was your turn to speak. What do you say to people who say that may raise questions about, whether or not you're up for the demanding grueling job of being mayor of New York City?
I wasn't alone in that. My colleague, Andrew Cuomo, also was befuddled. I had asked all 4 moderators to speak up. He chose not to. I don't know if it was purposeful. It was the setting. Now, remember, Zohran Mamdani, he didn't have to hear anything. We know what his answer was going to be. Affordability. He refused to answer a panoply of questions. But it's not right when you're running a debate. And I went out of my way in front of both Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo and said, could you raise your voices? We can't hear you. And it was evident Andrew wasn't able to hear some of the questions, I wasn't.
Well, and also in terms of talking out of turn, they definitely were letting the two of them go back and forth and not giving them a chance to talk at all. So I don't think it was out of turn as much as it was to say something.
Yeah, if you looked at those first 10 minutes, I'm right in the middle. I was a person of no consequence in that debate to Channel 4 and their moderators, so I had to inject myself. Look, I earned my right to be on that stage. I got the signatures to qualify as a Republican candidate. I had universal endorsement. I raised more money than Andrew Cuomo did. I deserve to be in that debate. And those moderators, all four of them, if they look back at the tape, they'll say, gee whiz, we thought we could ignore Curtis. You don't ignore Curtis Sliwa. I'm respectful at first, but when I see I am the object of what we call the streets, a diss and dismiss, oh no, you're going to hear from me. And that's why I won the debate, because I decided I wasn't going to just roll over for them, who only wanted to see Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani round 3. It was the same debate as in the primary. I gave them new stuff, new ideas, new concepts, and was very mayoral. And that's why I won the debate.
Curtis, what do you make of what Andrew Cuomo said this morning, which is that you're just a spoiler, you can't win, and this has been put up by party bosses because it's better for Elise Stefanik in the governor's race, it's better for national Republicans to have Mamdani as mayor, and that you're basically the patsy allowing that to happen?
Wow. Imagine if you were a Cuomo supporter and you heard that. For 35 years, WABC, the acronym stood for Always Broadcasting Credit. You tell many of my listeners and supporters who love me through the years, I don't know if they're voting for me or not, but obviously I was well respected, that you can't win unless I drop out, that I'm a supporter. Right.
That's what he was saying.
Boy, if I'm a Cuomo supporter, basically you're throwing in the towel. You're doing Roberto Duran, no mas, no mas. Because you already know Curtis Sliwa's not dropping out. And then to get conspiratorial, I want to do a drug test on Andrew. Now, I know he was angry at losing the debate last night. And he is an angry man, cold-hearted and always angry and always vindictive, and he's always sought vendettas. But to blame the party leaders for choosing me back in February, even at a time where Andrew Cuomo was still playing the Dipsy Doodle game. I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. If you remember, Andrew Cuomo was the last candidate to get in. So what a ridiculous argument. You lost the debate, drop out, let it be me and Zohran.
You know, I'm curious, you did well in the debate. Your enthusiasm numbers are very strong, stronger than Cuomo's. And I'm wondering, do you know how many campaign offices he's opened? Does he have an army of volunteers like you do? You just opened up a very successful opening in Queens. So I wonder, are you the most viable alternative with actually more of a real people-powered campaign compared to Cuomo?
Why don't you let that go away?
I'm the guy who campaigns in the streets. So I've seen the Zohranistas out there, that's what they call them, Zohranistas. And they're doing, they get out the vote effort, which they did in the primary. That's why they won. And obviously they're effective. We have a get out the vote effort too. It rivals theirs. Knock on doors, do mailings, texts, emails, make phone calls. Get your volunteers out into the streets, because that's what it takes. You really gotta love the campaign that you're running and believe in the principles that you believe, or you're not gonna get them out into the streets. We have them. Zohran has them. I've yet to see a Cuomo get out the vote effort. Now, he complained that he didn't get out one in the primary until it was too late. 3 days before the Carpenters Union started going door to door. You need to be out 3 months before. So here it is, we're less than 3 weeks away, and it's the same old Cuomo. He doesn't have a get out the vote effort. He thinks fear is going to propel people to the ballot box to choose him with all of his baggage, to prevent New York City from having Zohran Mamdani, and he sees me as an impediment, when in fact he should just run a good race, which he has failed to do. I mean, anybody who is involved in this business of politics knows he has not done the fundamentals. He's not out in the streets. He has a phobia. He doesn't like being with people. He wants controlled circumstances. That's not what you get when you run for mayor. To his credit, Eric Adams, and I campaigned against him in 2021. He's a good campaigner. He loves to just dive into a crowd. I treat a crowd like a mosh pit. Zohran Mamdani, before he became the Democratic nominee, was very much that way. He is more confined, less available to the general public than he was before. Because all he says is affordability, 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 affordability. Enough already, Zohran, huh? Can you talk about some other issues? So that's where we are. I can't worry about Cuomo. He's thrown in the towel. He should do his supporters all a favor and just quit. Go back to the Hamptons with his billionaire Medicis and leave the rest of the race to me. But if he chooses to stay in, fine. Then people will have 3 major candidates to choose from, and that's the way it should be.
Okay, as one last question. I think you've impressed a lot of people with your debate performance, and you're also able to remark that you're not particularly ideological or reflexively loyal to Trump. So let's say, I think you're doing very well. Let's say you come in second place with your enthusiasm, entirely possible. You don't win this. Do you see yourself maybe even running for governor? One of the reasons Lee Zeldin lost is he was very close to Trump. You've expressed opposition to the ICE raids. You've expressed that you have a frayed relationship. So do you see yourself as being more of a palpable, less ideological alternative maybe in the governor's race next year?
Well,
one bridge, but...
In the course of the 2-hour debate, the 1 hour on television, the 1 hour online, I chastised my opponents for wanting to get tough with Donald Trump, like all this their machismo, their testosterone. All they're going to do is hurt the people of New York City because he controls the finances, the federal finances. I said, as tough as I am, I know that's the point where you negotiate. But in the other areas where Trump is interceding in things that impact us on a day-to-day effort, I think I made myself very clear that I wasn't going to side with Trump on those issues because I didn't agree with him. That's what you call a Republican populist who represents working class people, who's independent and autonomous, and yet respectful of the president. I'll praise him when he's done great things, which I did, putting together that international peace conference that eventually brought peace together in Egypt between Hamas and Israel, something that he and only he alone could do. I praised him. It took a while for Andrew Cuomo to praise him, and obviously Zohran Mamdani will never praise Donald Trump for anything that he's ever done or will do. And by the way, that will be a detriment to the city. He's already said he's going to withhold $7 billion. So Zohran Mamdani's fantasies of universal child care, how are you going to pay for universal child care if already Trump is saying, if you get elected, I'm taking $7 billion, maybe more? You think maybe he can say on these issues, I'll be in opposition to you, but I really ought to meet with you on these issues, or whoever you assign to it, to try to save that money that we desperately need to keep this city solvent and to help the people who are least capable of helping themselves. To me, they're being very selfish. They're being macho maniacal guys. And I know as a tough guy, you don't have to say you're tough. What we need in New York City is a mayor who's compassionate, concerned, and considerate. And I don't get that sense from those two guys. They're too busy arguing with one another who's going to take on Trump more. That's not why we're electing a mayor. There are times you got to take on Trump, and there are other times you got to sit down and try to figure out the best possible deal you can make for the people you represent in the city of New York.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
You're on New York One, right?
Yes.
Big fan of yours. I like your round table, Bobby Cusa.
Yeah.
That's you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
A good job covering Cuomo. That must not be easy.
You were able to project well over the trip.
You think it's not easy? I was like, I don't know if anybody can hear me or not. It is, yeah. Usually he does it upstairs, so you don't hear anything. But today he decided to do it.
Sure, yeah.
I have a little YouTube, by the way. Are you voting in the election or not, or you have a candidate you like?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
visiting?
not. I grew up right over the river.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I am a New Jersey resident.
I'm heading to a Chitrelli rally today, and I'm gonna try to catch Cheryl. You like Jack over Mickey or Mikey?
I vote Democrat, so
Cool,
I
cool,
will
cool.
be voting
She's been pretty
for,
good, yeah.
Mickey Cheryl. No particular reasons other than just.
She's a
voting
Democratic
with
nominee.
party lines,
Cool.
yes, yeah.
That makes sense.
Not too
Yeah.
much substance, I think, in that race.
No, there's
compared to what's
compared to
going on
this,
over
it's
here.
very different candidates. They're a little more boring. I'll have to admit. Like it's a lot more exciting to cover a Zohran event than it is Mikey Cheryl, and the enthusiasm is stronger. And same thing, the enthusiasm is a lot stronger for Curtis than it is for Chitrelli.
I think having 3 dartboards
Yeah.
on the debate stage is a lot more interesting
Yeah.
than 2 for,
Yes.
for
Yeah,
that and,
no, it makes it a lot more fun. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
This guy's
bud.
been running my entire life, so it's
Yeah,
just,
he's an institution.
Yeah.
That's why I like him. You know, he's and people say he doesn't have the experience, but he's been involved in the safety of the city for 40 years. You know, so yeah, I like Zohran a lot too. But I think he cares about New Yorkers in a way that others don't.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Take care.
Take care. So you guys see your first press conference. Exciting. If you ever want to see more stuff, Curtis is the most accessible, I would say. So he'll have stuff online like meet and greets, whatever. Yeah, no, interesting scene.
Good to see you. I know.
Movie to you guys. Here. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this YouTube. I'm the only YouTube person covering this. You can watch mainstream media too, but I'm the only one that covers the whole thing. They're just going to clip out their one little question. So please subscribe for more mayoral coverage. We're going to head to Elizabeth, New Jersey tonight to cover a Chitrelli rally. So we'll be doing that. So stay tuned. Tonight at about 5 p.m. in about 3 hours, we will be covering a Jack Chitrelli rally. And there's going to be a lot of stuff. There's another mayoral debate happening. It looks like I might be able to get press access to be inside the debate venue. We're talking about that. Let's read some of the comments. Dodge, you do a great job of affirming everyone you talk to. Yes, my reflex is to be very kind. Is to always, I do genuinely like her too. My reflex is to be very, I'll never, even if you're a hard right MAGA, I'm never going to be like, fuck you. That's just not who I am. So yes, I'm a reflexive affirmer, but I do genuinely like Curtis quite a bit. I like Zohran too in his own way, which I know some of the commenters might not agree with. I voted for Zohran in the primary, but I think I'll vote for Curtis in the general. Nice work, Dodge. Thank you, Kid Freshie. Thank you for the kind comments. Let's give a little wrap up too of where we're at. Right now, Zohran is one poll had him only 13 points ahead of Cuomo, still pretty comfortable. Another poll had him 20 points. So it seems like Zohran is guaranteed to win in the debate. Nothing really happens except for that. I think Curtis was able to play against type and appear very level-headed. Some voters wanted to see he wasn't terribly drastic. He was heavy on policy. He leaned into some of the Trump stuff, I think, more than he needed to, but then he needs to get that base. Call me crazy, but I think he's going to come in second place, in my opinion. That's just my feeling about it. His enthusiasm is much stronger than Cuomo's. So, I think there's a lot of votes that you're not necessarily counting. US 66? No, I'm at 86. I'm trying both. Thanks, Annabelle. Where are you going to be tomorrow? Let me look. Give me a minute. Anna, feel free to look for me. Annabella. I'll be at the No Kings rally, probably at 1 Foley Square. When that begins, it's probably like 5. I'll be covering the No Kings rally event tomorrow, so then all the conservative subscribers will get happy today, so that's what counts. Curtis is running a much better race this time than last time. I agree, Annabella. I agree completely. The Dems are center-right, not of the left. The Dems support neoliberalism, but Zohran doesn't support neoliberal economic policies, says Osito. That's true, and I think that's why he's going to win. He's a new type of Democrat. Is he palatable to anything beyond the 5 boroughs? Probably not. Is he actually this big national movement? I don't know, but Look, I mean, I think it's interesting going to New Jersey and going to New York City and seeing the comparison. And maybe you just have to really go further to the left and abandon neoliberalism, because Mikey Sherrill is not doing well and she doesn't have the enthusiasm. I think that's one of the reasons is she doesn't stand for that much, or she's a corporate Democrat. So, maybe if you do want to win elections in certain states, you have to go further to the left. But it's been an interesting compare and contrast because, New Yorkers never pay attention to anything New Jersey does because they're so provincial. They don't give a shit. I give a shit. And if they do, they'll see these two completely different narratives, which is fascinating to me. And Cheryl won the primary and beat out Ross Baraka, who is almost a DSA-adjacent candidate, mayor of Newark. But, I think it's pretty comfortable. Zohran's going to win fairly easily. Came off as a little smug in the debate, a little condescending, but I think that's all right. I mean, it's not like anybody's going to be like, oh, my God, he was mean to Andrew Cuomo. Oh, no. I mean, nobody's gonna feel any sympathy for Cuomo. So I don't think that really matters. And it's about a real ground game, guys. And there's two people that have volunteers and that have ground games, because I've seen it. I've come to various events. I've seen the campaign office openings. I've talked to volunteers. Zohran has obviously the strongest base, and Curtis has a strong base as well. Cuomo does not have a base at all. Never heard of any Cuomo volunteers. Cuomo hasn't even opened an office. Curtis has opened up 8 campaign offices. Cuomo has not. He's gone full tard, if you know what I mean, lately. Full retard. Tropic Thunder Classic. I think it's from 12 to 2, isn't it? That sucks. Then I can't sleep in. Thanks for letting me know. It's from 12 to 2, then I'm probably going to skip Elizabeth tonight. Curtis is running a much better way. Read that. See, nice work, dogs. Thank you, Kid Freshie. Thanks for the nice comments. I appreciate it. Somebody says go back to bed, Sliwa. I think he had a lot of energy. Curtis has certainly mastered the art of not answering the question. I think Curtis should run for governor next year, no matter what. Because, I'm the type of person I would never vote for Stefanik, but I vote for Curtis. But I wouldn't vote for Stefanik because she's a very hard right extremist. But Curtis is not. And I think, I do hope there are more figures like him that are just a lot more level-headed and non-ideological. The whole reason that Hochul got elected is because Zeldin was so up Trump's asshole, quite frankly. Bunny, hey, nice to have you. The left is canceled. They canceled themselves. You'll never know what I am politically. I think some of you can figure it out. All right, Dr. Dano-Mite says Christianity is a colonial rape cult that is now the law of the land, and any god that a king orders me to worship will get nothing but contempt. All right, well, somebody is very pro-Christian. Gotta love Jesus. See, Jesus lovers, that's how they act. They're very kind people. Very kind people. Some, I'm sure, are very good people. Some Jesus lovers, very good people. Very good people. Both sides. Both sides. I could tell Curtis likes Zohran. I think there's a little bit of friendship between them. Even Zohran said Curtis was talking about the snafu of, Curtis was talking about the conversations that Cuomo had with Trump, and that Trump and the GOP tried to call Curtis to drop out, and he wasn't into it. Cuomo said he never had the conversation that Curtis was lying, and Zohran did say he is more apt to trust Curtis than Cuomo. So, look, if you really want Zohran to win, just donate to Curtis Sliwa. Zohran needs Curtis. It's an interesting election because you think, new movement, amazing he pulled this off, socialist candidate. But it's pretty historic if a candidate limps into first place with probably 40 to 45% of the vote. Most candidates, if you're the Democratic nominee in New York City, you get 65 to 75% of the vote. If I'm not mistaken, de Blasio against Nicole Malliotakis, that's a hard name to say. Rest in peace, she's not dead. Nobody talks about her anymore. Joe Lhota, remember, rest in peace? He's also not dead. Love Joe Lhota. But all right, de Blasio versus Nicole Malliotakis, 70%. De Blasio versus Joe Lhota. De Blasio got 75%. Now, of course, Bloomberg won a tight re-election battle against Thompson. That's what it's going to look like, actually, if you want to compare and contrast. Look up Bloomberg versus Bill Thompson in 2009. But, you know, minus Giuliani and Bloomberg, in most of modern history, the Democrat gets north of 60%. So it's quite historic sense that the Democrat is not getting that. Now, there's never been a three-way race with a significant independent, because Bloomberg was a Republican last time around. There's never a Republican running against Bloomberg. So this is the first time that there's a significant Democrat, a significant Republican, and a significant independent. But, you know, I wouldn't take this as some large national lesson, because ultimately he probably won't get the majority of New Yorkers. Now he'll get the plurality, and probably a very comfortable plurality. But it does speak volumes the Democratic nominee isn't necessarily getting the majority. So, you know, you always, even in bloodbaths and not close elections, you always have the little tea leaves that might not fit with the narrative. No kinks tomorrow. All right, bright and early. He loves animals. He's rescued cats to his apartment. They would otherwise be dead. So I really admire somebody who's against no-kill shelters and makes that a priority. Curtis has been front and center and tried to ban. So, you know, this guy isn't filthy rich by any means. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I love you all. Thank you for joining. And I may or may not go to Jack's rally today. May or may not. I guess we'll see what happens. But if I got to do No Kings, and it's earlier, I thought No Kings is at like 5. But if it's not, then if it's early, I'll put a 1 if you want me to cover the Jack Chitrelli rally today. Just right, Elizabeth. I think I still will. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off.